Hello, hello. Welcome to my second live stream. Yeah, I don't think that's going to be the case, Top Cat there. Welcome, everybody, to my second crack at a live stream. This is kind of doing everything that based on what everybody was requesting. So we're going to go ahead and take a TBM on a nice IFR radio flight. We're going to be actually operating over Scotland this time, which is going to be a little exciting because I've never actually been here. So hopefully you guys give me some good trivia as we're kind of cruising along here. So as usual, we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of the different details in our little flight here, kind of whip through the flight planning relatively quickly. We are going to be flying an arrival. We are going to be flying an unbelievably complicated approach. Yay for DME arcs, but you'll actually see that when we actually get there. Oh, welcome back, Reef, by the way. And I think I remember Top Cat also. Hello, hello. So what we're going to do first is we're going to go ahead and take a look at our route of flight, and then we're going to kind of take a look at everything else. Here we are sitting here. We are going to have to drive directly through the center of that fuel station in order to get out of this nasty parking job I did, but it happens. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking up from the west coast. Unfortunately, no, because I get issues with multiplayer. We're going to be taking off from the west coast over here at Prestwick. We're going to be going direct over to Tala and VOR. Then we're going to be flying a hold, which we can't see yet, but you'll see in a minute. And then from there, we're going to go ahead and do this crazy nutty approach into runway 24. Let's go ahead and take it. You can probably ask as we go. So basically, if you want to imagine where we are visually on this chart, by the way, to get this chart, I literally typed in EGPH ILS24 PDF, and it gave it to me right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to approach TLA, then we're going to leave by the Tree 4 radial. We're going to go to Tartan, which isn't too difficult because we know that it's 15 nautical miles away from our handy-dandy VOR station. We're then going to take a left turn, fly a direct hold entry here. We're only going to do one revolution of the hold. A lot of people aren't familiar with hold, so I figured why not. From there, we're going to proceed direct all the way up to here, which is going to line us up to the runway. Now, wait until you see the approach we are going to be taking today. There it is. So this is going to be our approach. We're going to have to follow that radial until we get to this DME and then fly an arc over a certain specific distance all the way to here using an NDB to help line ourselves up with the actual runway, spin around once we cross a second NDB arc, and then bring ourselves down to a standard ILS approach. It's definitely going to be interested. The other thing that makes it more fun is it's got a speed limit, and there's a couple of these things called speed limit points, which I'm actually relatively new to because, in the US, it's basically 250 or bust kind of a thing. It's a little different in the UK. So with that going, let's go ahead and get this sucker started, and let's actually do some flying today. All right, so let's go ahead and jump inside. I got ourselves a nice full tank. It's about 7 o'clock in the morning. I love this little tiny headlamp here. It's kind of not exactly what I would use. I prefer to use a red light whenever you're dealing with night vision issues, but that works fine for me. Let's go ahead and take a look at our list here and kind of work our way right down there. So let's see. Landing gear handle is going to be in the down position. Always highly recommended. I love the landing gear on this one because of the fact it lights up and gets all happy, and it has a button to check to make sure the lights work. I like that. All right, all lights are going to be set to the off position. Look above my head. We have a bonus light here. It's called the pulse light. Ooh, fancy. Coming down here, we want to make sure oxygen's on, which it will have been automatically. We're going to take a look at all of our lights. We're going to do our crash lever. So the crash lever is this weird little yellow and black handle here. This is just, we jam it down in our crash, apparently. Starter should be in the off position. That's a good idea. Let's see here. Ignition should be set to auto, which it is. We would be looking aux boost pump should be in the off position, which it is. The fuel selector should be to man, which I'm going to take a quick look at it. It is. This is a super unique method. Yes, there are. Going deck, we're going to make sure our AP and trims are off, make sure our ELT is off, de-ice off, inertial separators off, and of course we want to double check to make sure our parking brake is set, which it is. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So normally what we do now is we go ahead and do a regular old briefing. We're going to be doing an ILS arrival, basically in the event of an emergency, do this, please don't touch the controls unless I let you, stuff like that. So once we do that, we're going to check for charts and procedures, which we have, and now it's time to go ahead and get rolling. Yeah, exactly right. Yes, I wish the autopilot and the TBM were a little nicer, though. That is the one thing I will complain about. All right, so I'm going to take the autopilot and move the crash bar out of the way. We're going to take source. We're going to set it to bat. As soon as you do that, for some reason, my flashlight battery dies. I don't know what's up with that. It happens to me all the time. We're going to go over to main generator. We're going to set that to the on position. We're going to go ahead and test all our lights. The only light we can really test that I was able to find is this one right down here. Yay, it works. All right, we're going to go double check our landing. We did all that. Fuel on board. We should be carrying a full load of fuel today. Yes, definitely. Taking a look here. Go ahead and shut off that obnoxious alarm. We got full fuel. Beautiful. Voltage should be greater than 24.5, which it is. CAS, this is just going to be telling us all the scary things that we have to worry about here. Okay, looks good. And finally, lights set. Okay, so the lights are just the way I want them just right now. Let's go ahead and get this thing started. So first things do, I'm going to go up to the nav. I'm going to turn on my nav and my strobe. Next, we're going to go over to aux BP after double checking my thing over here. Looks good. We're going to flip this up to the on position. We're going to go ahead and double check to make sure the propeller area is clear. I'm going to ignore that. We're going to go ahead and double check to make sure everything's ready. Looks good, looks good. We should have a pretty angry message on here. We are. And now we start it. One of the interesting things about this, and I love turboprops for this in the real world, is you don't turn the fuel on when you turn on the turboprop, which is just weird. So let's go ahead and flip this thing to the start position. Click. Now we just sit here and wait. Yes, you all saw that. Now we're going to wait until this gets up to about 14:15. And we're just going to click it to the on position. And you can see we've got a good ignition. So right now what's happening is now we've introduced fuel. The turbine's spinning fast enough. This thing's going to start spinning. The propeller, by the way, in the real one takes a much, much longer time to actually get rotating. One of the interesting quirks with this particular model is the fact that we have a low idle, a high idle, and a flight idle. So you want to actually keep that very, very careful in mind. All right, we're going to set it to low idle, which we've got it set to. Starter should shut itself off automatically. And we should be showing that we're about 52% on the NG, which we are. That's it. We're going to go flip this over to, yes, I did the default tool, but that's okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and double flick this thing over to the flight idle position. Pretty easy. All you're going to do is click it up and over. We're going to get a bit of an increase in RPM. Keep an eye on the ITT when it does that. Looks pretty good. Now we're just going to make sure everything else works. Checking our oil temperature and pressures. Looks good. Fuel selector and boost pump is going to be automatic. So we're going to scoot up here. I'm going to go and make sure this is set to auto. And now the weird thing. Now this is one of the coolest things. On this particular aircraft, you actually have a left and right fuel tank, which I think is absolutely wild. But what I love about it is there's actually this little thing goes up here. If you turn the switch on, it will actually cycle the left and right fuel tank as you fly. So it's pretty slick how that actually works. Hi, IB Typer. So yes, we've got that all set up, and it's actually going to flip that back and forth for us. Fuel select, press. So one of the things you're supposed to do to make sure it actually works is there's a button that says shift. If you click on that, that should actually flip what fuel tank you're on, and you can actually see that it works correctly. So it's just sort of a neat trick. So now what we want to do is we want to make sure AP and our trims are turned on. If you forget to flip this switch, you're going to be very miserable later. Generator's already on. We're going to make sure that's on main, which it is. We're going to check the CAS to see that there's no errors. Yep, everything looks good to me so far. Air condition as required. It's England, so we're going to turn this temperature all the way to the right. Actually, not that far, but that's good enough for me. All right, we're going to set our transponder code. So let's go ahead and set that real quickly. And this one is a little bit different. We'd be setting it down here like this. You could go here, and of course you could set all your different stuff. But the nice thing is that my nice co-pilot has already done all that work for me, which makes my life a lot simpler. So I'm not going to worry about that too much right now. All right, that's all set. We're going to make sure our lights are on. They're good. Instruments are going to be set. My instruments are already set. Now it's time to go ahead and think about setting up our automatic pilot. I don't need to switch tanks on this one because it's done automatically. It's every minute and 30 seconds, I think, is what it said in the POH. So let's go ahead and make sure this is all set. So first things first, we're going to set our altitude for our top altitude. It's whatever we've been cleared to. In this case, we're going to be traveling up to 7,000, which is only going to take about 3.5 minutes to get to, which is awesome. Vertical speed, I made a little bit of a typo here. We can actually get the vertical speed as high as 2,000 feet per minute, which is just absurd, not negative 2,000 feet per minute. Beautiful. All right. Flight level change mode. I'm actually going to leave out flight level change. I'm going to fly it by hand. CDI set. Okay, now we're in trouble. Remember, we're doing radio nav today, so we're going to have to get a little bit more serious. So first of all, we need to set this to the correct frequency. So if you remember when we were taking a look a minute ago at our actual journey, let's go ahead and shut that preview off and flip this back on so y'all can see it. By the way, great use for weather. Coming over here, we can see that the frequency we're going to need for it is going to be 113.80. So I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to come down to here. This is a little weird on the TBM. We'll go to audio and radios, right here, 11380 transfer. As soon as I do that, this thing should come alive, which it does. Lovely. So one thing that I want to do is, yes, you can use the Cessna 172 if you're looking for a VO or a landing that's kind of conventional. We actually have videos coming out next week showing you how VOR landings work. It's actually pretty cool. So anyway, now what we're going to do is dial in the course we need to travel on. So I'm just going to actually just synchronize it to make my life a little bit simpler. And I should be almost... Perfect. Delightful. Okay, that is now all set. Now I'm ready to go as far as that goes. All right, navigation mode is going to be set. Again, we can do this all before we take off. Set for runway heading. We're taking off at runway 30. So 300, I should say. Just 30. Set that real quickly. Alex, that's a great question. I haven't flown a real airplane in about 5-6 years. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry about that. But, you know, I've done this for a while. I enjoy this kind of stuff. So I do make mistakes. Again, get a real CFI, something like that. All right, set for the first leg. We've done it. We are ready to rock. This is awesome. Yeah, it's not too bad. But thanks for the tip about the map light. That's not bad. Hey, there's the oxygen switch. I found the real switch I've been looking for this whole time. Let's try it. Oh, no! Now everybody's going to be hunting around for the actual correct switch here. It's all right. I can do this. Okay, fine. All right, let's go ahead and get rolling. So one thing I do want to include is I want to make sure my bleed is turned on. If there's no bleed, there's no pressurization. That's definitely something you want to watch out for. So let's see here. Clearance, obtain, parking brake. We're going to make sure our pitot heat is set as soon as we start rolling. And of course, we want to turn on our inertial separator as well. Basically, the inertial separator is a gigantic air filter that keeps nasty stuff from getting sucked in. So we've got a bit of a pickle here. Because if we were just to go ahead and go forward, we'd probably explode, which would be pretty satisfying if you ask me. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to kind of do one of these, and everybody's going to pretend that I didn't accidentally drive through the gas station there. Nope, look away, look away. It's not happening. It's not happening. Not happening. Nope. That's your imagination. You know, these graphical glitches are just vicious. Reef, you're asking a question about RNAV. You're just talking about approach hold. And if you do have a GPS approach, theoretically, your approach hold should receive that information accurately. All right. I wish I could get my... Yes. I know what that's like. No, so if you're doing a GPS approach, make sure the CDI is set to be on whatever you're using. If it's a GPS, it's a GPS. The $500 button. That's awesome. No, you did not see anything. That's what I said. Of course, the reason I picked that parking spot is everybody can imagine because it gets me closest to the runway, so I don't have to drive for half an hour. This is a 24-minute flight gear up to gear down, so, you know, we got to make it count kind of a thing. All right, we'll get rolling here. Normally, we'd be using air traffic control. I'm letting the AI handle that for me. Yeah, I'd love to see how they could push the plane back if there's a propeller going. I don't even want to imagine how nasty that would be. We have some issues with RNAV. I know a lot of people have been asking about that quite a bit recently. I know they're tracking it on the forum right now. I've played with it a lot because I tried to put a video together, but there's actually other GPS issues linked to RNAV. Okay, I did not turn those lights on, but they're on already. All right, go ahead and give ourselves one notch of flaps, and now we are ready to rock. Love this part. Yeah, I used to do 50, like I have a standard flight I do for everything. But we're not going to use that flight because it takes us about 50 minutes. I wanted to go to a different country that had a nice complicated approach, and this was an awesome choice. All right, we're looking for about 100% N1, or don't exceed the max ITT for a normal takeoff. All right, we're looking for about 75 knots or so. 71, 2, 3, 4, 5. Going up. Now, this is something I actually learned from reading the POH of this aircraft. Apparently, you're not supposed to raise the landing gear until you hit 115. It's not one of those positive right aircraft like you see with the airliners. All right, cruising on up. We got a bit of a crosswind, but it's nothing that I'm too worried about yet. Go ahead and pop up that notch of flaps. Again, it's really bad form to turn before you get to the end of the runway. Now, this aircraft, because of its insane amount of power, you could literally almost climb this thing at 15, 16 degrees. It's excessive. Exactly. So my favorite thing in the world to do when I used to fly is I would always say, oh, that's not supposed to happen, right as we lift off the ground. It is priceless. I think what's going to happen, Maxime, is I'm probably going to transition away from tutorials and just do flights. Because at this point, I've done a decent job explaining things. All right, we're coming up on about 1,500 feet. So I'm going to go ahead and slap off the inertial separator. We don't need it anymore. Again, unless it's really dusty, like there's volcanic ash or something like that. Yeah, definitely. I actually appreciate the frame rate in the latest update, to be honest. Alright, looking pretty good so far. See, you know what I really miss is helicopters. I love helicopters. The springs in my joystick are designed basically for helicopters. Alright, so all we're doing now is climbing up to 7,000 feet, and we're going to try to center our CDI here. Alright, so I'm going to take a look down here. Switch to instrument vision mode. Now notice, I'm climbing 2,300 feet per minute, and I'm still doing 170 knots. That is insane. I'm not sure what you're asking as far as fuel efficiency goes. The big thing is get the actual POH, and there's a really, really bad bug right now, which is making me slightly insane, and that's the fact that your torque goes down with altitude, not up with altitude. Oh, I hate that. That's not how that works. Alright, we're just about centered, and we're almost to our altitude. Holy smokes, is this thing fast. So, pro tip for helicopters, you just got to keep doing it. That's the best way to describe it. I have a teeny tiny bit of time in real helicopters, and man, are they sensitive. That's all I got to say. Alright, swinging over to our left now. We're just proceeding direct to Tala VOR. I'm going to let the automatic pilot kind of take over, assuming it doesn't want to fly me to the moon or something. Bytewave, you are correct. That is exactly how they set the new voices. It's based on your player model. But be careful if you let the co-pilot do it. That actually has a different voice depending on what model you gave your co-pilot. You could always use the old Microsoft Flight Simulator voices too. Those are always fun. Alright, it seems we are proceeding on course pretty solid right here. So I always like to joke with helicopters. When you learn to hover, you really cover a lot of ground. So don't worry about it too much. Now, a couple of you folks are probably saying the fact that we're lining up fairly well with that GPS course, even though we're on VOR, that's actually intentional. It's just to kind of help you provide kind of a visual here as we're kind of cruising upwards. Alright, let's flip over to the automatic pilot. So now an interesting thing I want to just throw out real quickly is I was looking for foreflight. I'm going to flip on the yaw damper now that I'm up to altitude. I'm also going to kill the landing lights. Awesome. And the neat thing here is the fact that there's actually a flight plan from Garmin that looks pretty solid and does a lot of the same functionality. Let's make sure that's on, and it is not centering my set stuff. So I'm just going to do it myself. Why make more work for myself than it has to be? There we go. I have not had the weird one where the lights suddenly show off, but if it happens, then we'll just treat it like an emergency and go. This is not live weather, no, because if you actually take a look, now that I'm out altitude, the weather is going the opposite direction I need it to go right now, so unfortunately it's not going to work so well. Alright, and now we're just going to go set up our cruise, which is one of the things I love about this aircraft. Yeah, I mean, this is beautiful. I mean, I've never been here myself, although I understand that England has the best curry, so I'm going to have to visit it at some point. Again, I'm not following this magenta line. We're actually following a radial from VOR. We'll speed up just a teeny tiny bit. We can actually use 100% N1. There's no handle for propeller on this aircraft. The older version did have it. All right, speed up just a teeny tiny bit. Again, we can use all 100% here. Oh, man, is the autopilot on this thing killed me more than once. Oh, man, seriously. Ah, my visor. Alright, so now we just kind of relax, kick back. Exactly. Sure. I'm trying to see what everybody's saying here. I'm trying to keep up here. Did you know how to interpret the wind arrow on the middle display of the top LRFT? I'm not sure which one you're referring to. I can go turn it on real quick. Assuming that's the one. This one? I'm not sure. Oh, you've corrected me, Steven. You're absolutely correct. But, yeah, you're not wrong. Alright, so I'm actually using manual control here, using the heading hold in order to keep us on thing. Love to hear it. All right, so one thing I am going to do is I'm actually going to turn the DME. I have to start thinking about landing. I know it seems like we have a little ways before we have to do it, but there's a lot of stuff we have to get lined in here. So first thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to PFD settings, and I'm actually going to turn on my bearing for my nav2. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this as a way to identify how close I am to the runway. On my nav1 bearing, I'm just going to use this as a DME, and we're going to need that a lot once we start doing it. Yep, that's our wind direction. Greetings from Canada. Awesome. Canada has the best bagels, at least in Montreal. Can you change VR2 course while VR1 active? Not in this, no. Some aircraft, especially old school business ones, you can. There might be a magical way to do it, but I haven't found it just yet. I haven't played with it, although it's given me some issues so far. Okay, let's start planning our descent. I'm going to go flip over to this view for just a second. All right, let's go back up top. Excuse my incredibly noisy mouse wheel. So we're basically going from here to here. So what we're going to do is we're going to cross Tala and then proceed on the tree 4 for 15 nautical miles. Once you get to Tartan, I'm going to go ahead and take a left-hand turn that's going to take us all the way on this. We're going to fly this hold once, then reacquire, and then come back up to our landing. So the important numbers are going to be 15. The important numbers are going to be 11. But we'll take a look at that once we get a little bit closer. All right, let's take a look. We're doing about 17 nautical miles. 17 nautical miles at 250 is what, 3 minutes, 3/4? This aircraft does not, but the new TBM does. I don't usually do the add-ons. If it's going to be an add-on, it's probably going to be something really obscure, like, I don't know, a DC-6 or something like that. Okay, at this point, we're starting to experience a little bit of crosswind here. That's a 10-knot wind. You can actually see that even though I'm pointing a little into the wind, it's still shifting me away. So I'm actually going to have to kind of crab a little bit. Reef, there are a couple folks out there who do airliners much better than I do. As of when I was playing with them last, I was really struggling with what I knew from playing X-Plane with those versus those kind of things. Zakari, that's a great question. Basically, there are some stars and SIDs that involve propeller. It'll actually say turbojet or propeller only right on the SID or the star, but the reality is you usually can't go fast enough or high enough as a small GA aircraft in order to properly fly one. This particular aircraft has no difficulty flying one. Yes, I agree with that one, Silesian. So again, it's all on air traffic control. One thing that you can actually do, and this is kind of neat, is if you're playing like a VAT sim, right in your little remarks, you could write out there and say no SID or no star, or if you don't have the proper legal equipment on board the aircraft, you might not even be able to, I guess, quote, legally fly a SID or a star because you're missing, say, 2 RNAV receivers or something like that. All right, we're just about to our destination. We're about 10.5 nautical miles away. One of the neat things is, I don't know if we can actually do it because I think it's too cloudy today. Yeah, you can, whoa. Apparently they plant, instead of trees, they have windmills in Scotland. So taking a look down here, you can actually see the VOR station as we cross over it. This is a G3000. And that's why it's got the little touchpad. We're going to need the heck out of that in a minute. Speaking of which, I better go dial in some of my ILS frequencies. Set that up real quickly. Go to audio and radio. Oh, I don't need that one. It's nav2. That is the one I need. Oop. It's not quite how that works, but that's okay. 10890. Swap. We're going to get... Oh, look at that! We can read it all the way out this far. That's not bad. Okay, so we're going to cross that. Now, here's a quick tip for everybody. Unless your flight plan says you have to overfly a particular waypoint, treat it as a fly-by waypoint. So in that case, what I'm actually going to be doing is I'm going to be flying to the VOR, but cutting early so that I can get away from it. Thank you. That's exactly correct. We're going to have to go down to 6,000 and then cross 4,000 after we do the turn there. All right, we're getting very close to the VOR station, I could tell, and it starts getting very sensitive. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to reset this to our new course, which is going to put us to Tartan waypoint. So that's going to give me a tree 4 course. It's going to be right about there, Lifeboat. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of, let's say, round off the corner a little bit here. I'm not going to overdo it too bad, though. Oh no, we might get too close to it. Yes, we're going to get to minimums and all that in a second. I actually need to descend to 6,000 feet. And we also need to slow down in a minute. All right. It's a pretty quick plane. Honestly, I'm amazed they didn't do the PC-12, because the PC-12 is a little bit more versatile because you have quite a bit more capacity in it. But this is like a sports car. Oh, watch the needle flip. Boing. Okay, let's do a quick little update visually, what we just did here. So we just crossed over. Now we're going to proceed on tree 4 to get to Tartan. When we get to Tartan, which we'll know because it's 15 nautical miles away, we're going to go ahead and swim in around the other way, pretend to fly this hold real quick, and then proceed direct into our actual landing. All right, let's go flip back. So far, so good. We're going to go ahead and do vertical speed mode, and we're going to do a very gentle descent. Again, we're not in a rush. It's going to take me more than 2 minutes to get there anyway. All right. So how do we know when we get to Tartan waypoint? Well, if you remember, it's along the tree 4 radial, and it's a total distance of 15 nautical miles away, which means this line is perfectly centered, and this here says 15, we got there. Reef has been asking that question a few times about the RNAV stuff, and unfortunately, as far as I can tell, it doesn't work the way at least I know how it works. All right, we're swinging around this way. Switch back to heading hold real quick. I'm going to try to beat it before it gets to me. We have a new problem now that we have an incredible amount of tailwind. So when we actually do our holding pattern, we're going to get pushed around pretty aggressively there. All right, so now we're just waiting to head to get down to our 6,000 feet, as well as getting down to our holding position. Now, keep in mind, in the real world, you don't have to fly holds unless they tell you need to fly hold. We're just doing this for demonstration purposes. Now, what you'll see in the videos I have coming out next week for all the different flights is several of them have all sorts of crazy, insane, different kinds of procedure turns, which you'll see quite a bit. All right, let's look to my right just a teeny tiny bit. Again, we've been on VOR this entire time. Oh man, what a beautiful country. I love this. Enjoy the flight once in a while. I mean, you always concentrate on flying. And this instrument stuff is too much work, to be honest. Sometimes it's just nice to just go. Now, my favorite horror pilot story involves losing electrical things at night, but I'm sure I'll have an opportunity to do that when we get stuck in the hold in a moment. Yes, Tybone, you're absolutely correct with the hold patterns. They will have... Oh, no! They're growing more of the windmill trees here. Yes, it's a $4 million airplane. So holding patterns do have a speed limit. It's usually listed on the instructions. When I was reading through the actual data as far as this stuff goes, again, I think my data is out of date. It said SLP 250 knots or less is what it says. So I'm just going to make sure we don't accidentally cross that too bad. Speaking of which, we're right about ready to cross it. I need to swing to my left a little bit. I don't like to use the navigation autopilot when you're flying a VOR. I found kind of the hard way. Yeah, sure, I'll go over hold patterns once I get to it, because I'm about 10 seconds from getting to it. You have to be careful because they have hold patterns and they have these things called procedure turns, which are not the same thing, but they can be similar. So give me 2 seconds. I'm right about to enter into my holding pattern. I kind of got to get everything ready. Hold on. I got to get my timers out. Okie doke. Now I'm ready. I'm not so worried about it because it's a gas turbine. It's a pretty aggressive thing, and I do have my ignition turned on, so I'm not so worried about the clouds. But obviously, if it's an ash cloud, we're going to have a problem. All right, let's go ahead and take my hold. So we're 15 nautical miles away. We're going to bring ourselves up to the 198. Ah, I hate it when it does that. What? Whoa. I'm sure this has all happened to everybody about 1,000 times. 198, and we need to go ahead and take my left turn this way. So we're basically going to be swinging right over. Ah! I'm sure everybody's had that experience about 50 times. There we go. Beautiful. Okay. That's a good tip, Tybone. All right, we're going to go swing around into this hold now. So this hold is kind of an interesting thing. Basically, a hold is a way to space everybody out. So what we've just done is we got to Tartan after goofing up our autopilot thanks to the zoom being attached to my scroll wheel. We spun around here. We're going to line up at this 198 and actually follow it until we cross something called Tweed intersection. We know we hit Tweed because we'll be on 198 and we'll be crossing that particular point here at 11 nautical miles. So after we do that, I'm going to go ahead and take myself a 1 minute standard rate turn. We're going to proceed in the opposite direction, which is going to be 18 degrees for a minute. Then we're going to turn left again and come back to the original 1 moment later. Again, that's just basically a racetrack. You'll see me fly in just a moment. Let's go back over here. So now what we're doing is we're trying to reacquire that 1908 radial. We haven't actually started yet. Yeah, really. See, my mouse actually has tilt on it. I can go left, right with my mouse wheel. Yes. All right, so check this out. So now, oh geez. It's a lock. I can never pronounce that word correctly. I'm sure there's some people who are twitching. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to be very interested in our NDB, or I should say DME information, and we're going to be very interested, go ahead and keep this perfectly centered. So we're going to basically follow that radial for a little bit while. The moment this says that we've hit a total of 11 nautical miles, we're basically going to turn ourselves around, like I said, with that standard rate turn. Excellent question, Jeremy. So on this little teeny tiny little instrument gauge right here, is how fast your aircraft turns. It's something that I had to go look at the manual because it's been so long since I've actually used the G1000. But basically what this does is this line right here will tell you it will take 2 minutes to finish a turn. This line right here will tell you it takes 4 minutes to finish a turn. So when you're doing a turn, you see how this little teeny tiny line is kind of scooting? This tells me how long it will take to do the turn. A standard rate turn will take your little pink line all the way to here. Now, if you actually look at the rules for holding, we can cheat a little bit because we're using an autopilot and not use a true standard rate turn. It's kind of neat. Isn't that neat? I know, I feel so stupid because I didn't just read the book. All right, so now we're going to proceed here until this says the number 11. The moment it says the number 11, we're going to turn the aircraft around. And the cool thing is it's going to be super easy to actually find where we need to be. Now, unfortunately, I can't show you the fix on this page, which is kind of a bummer. I really wish I had the breadcrumbs so you could see me do the racetrack here. Now, in the real world, like I said, you only have to hold if they tell you you have to hold. We're just doing a hold just to kind of do it. Yes, as a matter of fact, Oliver, we were just about to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and get my turn going, and then we're going to take a look at setting up our actual landing. Whoa, I did it again. Now, our actual landing requires a DME and a VOR, an ILS, and basically it's going to be crazy. But you'll see that in just a minute. Again, I want to fly that. I'm going to get going on that turn before I do it. And you can see when we hit 11, we're going to go ahead and take our left turn here. All right, Oliver's going to be super excited in about half a second here. All right. Okay, so that wind is pushing us actually pretty aggressively. Normally when you do a hold, the first one is called the no wind pattern, which basically is where you're going to zip through the hold and see what the wind does to you so that you can make sure you get it the proper shape the second time. I'm not going to worry about that too much. Whoop, time to turn. All right, we've just crossed our first point. So normally what we'd be doing is a standard rate turn to the left. So it takes us a minute in order to turn half of the way. Now the problem is, like I said, the autopilot isn't designed to actually do that properly for you, at least in this aircraft, or this needle is incorrect. The danger with using the back course button is I don't want to be following the course backwards. I actually want to be following the opposite direction offset from the course. So you have to kind of be careful for that. There's not a lot of FMS stuff new. Not at least now. Yep, you also have this one right here. That's what Spam Waffles is pointing out. But for turn rate, we're going to be interested in this little line right here. Man, is that hard to find. Okay, so what I got to do is get ready to press the timer. The moment the wings are level, that outbound leg begins in my holding pattern. And again, all I had to do was put the heading carrot right on there. The half bank, that's pretty cool. There's also control wheel steering, but I'm kind of keeping it simple so I don't have to kind of go back and forth between everything. All right, gonna come spin around. Almost there. Remember, as soon as the wings are level, oh, they're growing more windmills here. As soon as those wings go level, we're gonna go ahead and start a timer. It's gonna be a minute long. This is kind of our outbound leg. And this is the slowest D-turn I've ever seen. I'm gonna call it right there. So we got a 1 minute timer. Let's do it. Okay, let's start thinking. We have exactly 1 minute to prepare for our landing here. So I'm going to pop over here. So what we need to do is we're going to intersect actually the 2-8 radio. We're not going to do the tree because it's just out of line. When we get close, we're going to follow this by using a DME mark method. I'll show you when we get there. But we need to use the Edinburgh Tree 41, which is going to be an NDB station, to be able to identify when we're going to have to go ahead and make our actual turn onto final. So I'm going to go flip us back over here. I'm keeping an eye on my timer. And I'm going to quickly set it. Navcom, audio and radio. Going to go all the way to the bottom. Click on the ADF button. Tree. Oops, sorry. It's always got to start with a 0. Tree 41 swap. And that's it. And now I've gone ahead and gotten my ADF pre-tuned, ready to rock. While I'm here too, I might as well set up some things like my minimums, but I think my timer is about to move out in about 10 seconds. Once we run out, by the way, did you notice we just crossed the waypoint again? We're just going to turn ourselves around. It should take us a minute to take that turn. Then we're going to line up, and then we're going to get ready for landing. Wow, that was a quick flight. All right, there's my time. Let's do it. Now, the cool trick here is if we compensated for wind, we would know precisely how much extra turn bank we'd actually have to pull in order to safely get back onto that radio. All right, while that's going, I'm going to go ahead and start getting everything ready for landing. Our minimums are an absurd 107 feet. Wow. Okay. We're going to set the minimums to radar mode, 107. Enter. Yikes. That's what you get for Category 2. Speed bugs, I'm going to go ahead and add the VIA app. I'm going to go ahead and set this to nav mode real quick. That's a little weird. I'm just going to turn it on. And now I'm pretty much ready to go for our landing. We're going to fly out of this. By the way, if we timed everything perfectly, which I guarantee you I did not, this needle will be perfectly centered as we finish our 1 minute turn. But again, that's usually stuff you want to do by hand. Let's see how we do. No, it's not going to make it. You're going to have to be more aggressive. You're going to have to be more aggressive. No! Okay, some people are asking me about the minimums. The minimums on this particular chart, let me go ahead and call up the chart again real quick. Nice and easy. Radar altitude 107. You also have your decision height being about 200 feet. So this one's a little bit easy. Yeah, that's pretty funny. So this one's actually relatively easy to fly. Okay, so we've just almost finished one path through the holding. Now, when this says 11 again, we will have actually finished our total hold. We've done REM revolution. And if we're perfect pilots, which, trust me, I'm not, we would actually have been able to do the entire experience in 4 minutes. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get ready to bring us on the approach for our landing. So the thing I'm going to do is I'm going to leave on heading hold here. I'm actually going to change the course to 28 degrees. Notice nothing bad happens. All right, 28 degrees is right there. Perfect. You have no idea. All right, once we get out to 11 nautical miles, we're going to exit the holding pattern and we're going to proceed right back. I'm glad you do. All right, let's see here. I think I did turn, no, yeah, super chat or whatever that is. Somebody was talking about that. It's all good. Okay, let's see here. Let me see. Okay, once we hit 11, I'm going to go ahead and take that left turn. Again, I could, if I wanted to get rid of this display, I could go to MFD and do one of these things. Aha! Now I can't cheat anymore, because really, I don't need to cheat. Let's go back. Once this is 11, we're going to go ahead and take a left turn, basically straight east, and try to re-intercept that radial to get us all the way down to the ground. And then, as somebody pointed out just a few minutes ago, we're actually going to have to start thinking about bringing this thing down for landing and changing our altitude down to 4,000 and slowing down. Because one of the problems we have is we're doing 240 right now, which is much, much too fast to be able to enter that particular pattern. Okay, let's go ahead while I'm doing this little turn here. Let's flip back over here. I'm just going to study this. So we are not quite halfway between this. So taking a look here, we're at 6,000 right now. When we cross TLA 13, we're supposed to drop down to 4,000 before we get to 22. Once we do that, we're going to do the DME arc business, which is miserable. But I have a quick and easy way to do it. And we're going to really cross our fingers that this NDB is in Flight Simulator, because if it's not, we're really going to have to do it the hard way. But that's what we're here for. All right, let's go ahead and finish up. And we've already crossed it, but that's all right. We're exited the hold now. It's time to bring this thing down. Let's go ahead and set our altitude select for 4,000 feet. Remember, we need to be down to 4,000 before we cross 22 nautical miles. So that's not a lot of time to do that. So I'm actually going to set this to about 500 feet per minute. I'm actually going to back my throttle back for the first time so far today. Flip on the navigation mode. All right, time to start getting ready. So let's go ahead and think this through real quick. I've got my chart handy. My frequencies have been preset. The frequency we're going to be using for our landing today, it's going to be an ILS, like as a DME approach, has already been preset. You can actually take a look real carefully, and you can see that needle right there, which is pointing to where we're going to be landing in just a few minutes. So that's going to be working out fairly well for us. So this is going to, when this hits the number 12, by the way, we need to start taking a very gentle left turn in order to fly that arc. When this needle points at 256, we turn to final. That's really all there is to it. I really wish they had tuned this a little bit. This should be a lot more aggressive, but that's okay. All right, coming down at a pretty good speed. We're not exceeding the speed limit. When we cross the 2.2 mark, we're going to have to drop down all the way to 210 knots. All right, concerning my thing real quickly here. Everything looks good. We're under 10,000 feet, so we might as well start getting ready for a landing. Flip on my landing light. One fun thing is you have these things called pulse lights. If you turn this on, it makes the aircraft get all like fancy up front. These are supposed to be blinking, but that's perfectly good. All right, so we're coming down real nicely. I'm going to flip back to nav mode again. All right, so when we cross 22, remember we're supposed to be at an altitude of 4,000 feet, which looks like we're going to be. We also have to slow down to 210 when we enter the approach. And when this number says the number 12, I will have known, let me go ahead and flip this back up, that will be right about here. And then just kind of keep that number as close to 12 as. You'll have to let me know if everything came back all of a sudden. Okay. Whew. Sorry about that, everybody. I don't know what that was about, but unfortunately, we missed all the fun stuff. No, we didn't. Wow. Sorry about that, guys. I'm not sure what that was just about, but I literally watched everybody drop off simultaneously. Sorry. Okay, let's do it. So the good news is nothing bad happened while you were away. We're almost to our little point that we need to be at, where we need to start taking it. Yeah, it happens. That's the problem with doing anything live. So what we need to start doing is flying that nice DME arc. So to go ahead and do that, what I'm going to do real fast is I notice that I'm getting too far away from where I need to be. I'm going to go ahead and bring my aircraft to the left. Now, the cool thing about flying a DME arc is when this number starts coming down, it means I'm getting closer to be where I need to be. When it starts getting bigger, it means I'm getting farther away. So basically what you're going to try to do here is play a little game where you're going to try to get a little closer, but not too close, but a little bit closer and not too close, something along this. It's just kind of interesting how that plays out. Meanwhile, we need to start thinking about landing this aircraft. Everything's all set up there. That's looking pretty good here. When this needle, by the way, which represents our ADF, is pointing to about 256, which is right here, we'll know it's time to turn onto our final approach. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to flick over to my localizer approach so we can go ahead and stand by for our landing. I actually need to bring this arc in even tighter here. All right, looking pretty good, looking pretty good. All right, looking good. Again, I want to get a little closer. I'm 13 nautical miles away. I'm supposed to be 12 nautical miles away. Bring us a little bit to the left. Looks good. Okay, that's much better. So now all I'm really watching is I'm trying to follow this needle and wait until it's pointing to 256 when it's time to kind of go do this. Exactly. Well, I had to slow down. All right, taking a quick look here. 25. Once this needle points here, it's going to be time to turn final. See how we're a little bit closer? We've actually been able to kind of reel ourselves back in a little bit. We're supposed to be doing 210, so we're going pretty darn fast as it is. All right, and to actually make myself slightly more sane here, I'm going to shut this one off completely. That way I've only got the correct needle. Yeah, that would have been a pain. All right, I'm watching very, very cautiously here. Actually, what I really would like to see is nav 2, so I can see how far away I am. Beautiful. See how this number's starting to get smaller? That means I'm getting too close, so I'm actually going to turn the aircraft away a little bit to give myself some room. Not too bad, not too bad. We're doing all right here. All right, almost there. Once this needle crosses, it's going to be time to turn final. No surprise, by the way. You can actually see that I'm pretty much right lined on. So this has actually been pretty good, despite things being kind of goofy here. All right, looks pretty good, and delightful. Let's turn final. So I'm going to go ahead and take the aircraft to the left. Reduce speed again. We're going to go ahead and drop our first notch of flaps and our landing gear and go ahead and do Giphy. So I'm going to go ahead and press the approach hold. Again, I'm in the correct CDI. I'm not going to lose points on this one. Going to slow down, drop down my first notch of flaps, and we're going to start preparing for landing. All right, we're a little high. Whoa! Bonk! I believe it found the glide slope. All right, now we just got to land the plane. Now, the neat thing here is your final approach fix on this particular approach is actually going to be when you cross the NDB station, which is, in my mind, that's just wild, and it's quite old school here. I'm actually looking out the windows here. You'll have to give me some wonderful trivia of this particular region. All right, let's fling back over, make sure everything's working okay there. All right, looking pretty good, looking pretty good. Just want to make sure everything looks okay. All right, ready to land. You have no idea. All right, coming in. At least he didn't land. Yeah, that would have been bad. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, folks. I'm not sure. I think that might have been something on my end, but it looked pretty weird. But anyway, let's start thinking about landing. Let's do Giphy. So first things first, gear. We're going to check to make sure they're working. Good. Inertial separator should be flipped to the on position. Our flaps should be down. We're going a little fast here, so we can't put them down. And our yaw dampers should be off. All right, now it's just a matter of landing the plane. By the way, that's a great question. I have a Thrustmaster, like generic little throttle kind of a thing. But for the stick, I do have something kind of nice. I have a VKB gunfighter. Like I said, I really enjoy doing the helicopter kind of stuff like that. And I think I have a CH, something like that, pedals on the floor. Yeah, landing checklist. I'm being distracted. I should be concentrating on landing. This is like the critical time. All right, good. Flaps down. Put my last notch of flaps down. I'm going to get all sorts of angry warning lights. I'm going to go ahead. We need about 85 knots here. Exactly. So like I said, this is another great time for those of you who are real pilots to start scaring the crap out of everybody on side of your plane. What's that red light mean? I'll speed up just a little bit. All right, I'm going to do it one more time. We are on the correct fuel tank. This looks good. Our landing gear's down. We've tested them. Yaw damper's off. Inertial separator is on. Everything's right. Yeah, right, because of Corona. All right, double check my lights. Lights are on. Everything up top looks good. It's just a matter of landing the plane now. Now this is relaxing. So let's go ahead and take a look at what I've done horribly here. You can see, actually, let me go flip it over to this one. So we basically flew this arc. We crossed this at 262. Then we just took that nice tight, and we're just coming right about here. Once we cross that point, we'll be at our final approach fix, and we decide whether or not things are going to go well. And you can see we're right at 85 knots. Everything's pretty good. I mean, I guess I'm going to get in the back and get myself a drink. Anybody want one? Pretty bad. And usually it's about 37% torque. Yeah, no, this is kind of relaxing. Like, at some point I have to fly the plane, right? I'm not worried about it too much. Ah, Joel. That's hopefully it's Joel or Joel. It could be either one of those. The fun thing about that is in the real world, generally you're going to have been told by whoever your instrument clearer is, you know, clear to fly the such and such arrival, expect this approach into the runway. So by the time you did that, yeah, I've actually shared it. What's wrong with that? You're going to know exactly what arrival you are almost 15 minutes before you've even had to land the plane. I could probably make it. I'm sure these fine people would probably not appreciate me shutting the engine off, though. Yeah. Again, I've known some people to go to Scotland. I'd love to visit the UK. Like I made a comment earlier about curry, but like it's such a beautiful country, like so many of them. Yeah, I could take over flying this thing at any point. So we should make things a little bit more exciting. That was a little disappointing. I was hoping that'd be a little worse, but apparently the fog in England is as bad as they say. Again, I'm not in England. I got it. I'm a little slow, but that's okay. We're going to be doing 85 knots. Okay. Now this is going to be really, really cool. Watch this. If you look right here, you can actually see the ADF needle. Now, when this flips, that's going to be my final approach fix, which is going to be letting me know, am I going to have to do something? Oh, I was right. Gotcha. Not bad. I have a student who's a Joel, that's why. Why not? Yeah, I know. And I'm at the correct power, too. At any point, I could take over. Now, if you really want to see some terrifyingly low approaches, try using a GPS approach. I'm just going to kind of enjoy the scenery. Oh, by the way, my favorite sport in the world is cricket. So that's just kind of interesting because I was really hoping I'd see a pitch or two on the way down, but that's okay. Yeah. Okay, let's pop the back a little bit, get ready to actually put this thing down on the ground. And then we'll do a little bit of Q&A, and then we'll probably call it. Looking pretty good. I'm going to take the rest of the way. So disappointed in this turbulence. You actually don't need VNAV with GPS. If you do an approach with the GPS selected as your approach, it should actually give you vertical information as well. And we're going to come up a little higher, because this thing is dropping me right below that glide slope. Kind of dangerous. Yes, the TBM is literally like the sports car. I really like the Bonanza, though. Tactical, that is an excellent question. It depends on the landing, believe it or not. Generally, for me, if I can see the runway safely, it's probably a good time to go ahead and take over manual control. If you're doing something like, a Category 1A approach or something along those lines, I might have my numbers backwards, it's literally going to be like 200 feet off the ground. Yeah, I'll definitely try to remember to enable subtitles. Yeah, I'm a little high, but if you take a look, I'm just a teeny tiny bit high on the glide slope. Of course, I'm looking at the chat instead of, flying the aeroplane. Starting to get a little fast, but that's okay. Yeah, the Bonanza, I've never actually gotten to fly in a Bonanza. Most of my work is in things like Cessnas and stuff like that. I got a T6 once. That was kind of a fun experience. Whoa, this turboprop is not modeled well. Yeah, thanks, Andy. I'll be quiet. And now the turbulence comes. Now we definitely have ourselves a nice gusting crosswind. This is your captain speaking. Ignore the grinding noises. Whoa, that is a nice shifting wind. Not quite sheer, but getting there. Again, for me, I want to land at the end of the runway, not where the dots tell me to. One thing I'm a little disappointed in is the turboprop modeling in this version of Flight Simulator. They're slow, but they're not that slow. Now, the weird thing about a TBM is apparently when you land, it's actually nose down, not nose up. I mean, not that you hit the ground nose down. That would be bad. What I should do is hit the reverser. Now, one thing I actually did learn in doing some research for this particular one is it's not unusual for people to back taxi on this just to get off the runway a little bit quicker, because that would take a very long time normally. That was not butter. That was garbage. But that's okay. Thanks for the appreciation. Okay, so now we'll flip over to Q&A mode. Anybody have any questions? We made it to our destination completely on radio navigation. We did a pretty good job. I think my total flight time was not that long, so. Not bad. Of course, normally you'd want to get permission before you just sort of start driving around the airport, but that's all right. So NG is the percentage that your turbine is spinning. Now, a PT6 engine is rated for, don't quote me, about 36,000 RPM. So instead of saying 0 to 36,000, they simply say 0 meaning 0 RPM and 100 meaning 36,000 RPM. The bacon light straight up. Yeah, if you actually look at the POH, there's a whole thing on there. So Mark, in response to your question, it's way too slow. And it's also reversed with NG. As you get higher, you actually have less power, not more power. So it's kind of a bit of a surprise that it behaves that way also. The Cessna 172 G1000 is one of the few I've actually flown, and I'm not just pretending that I've flown. I've actually done in Right Nut, your question about ADF. I literally just did an approach video this morning on ADF. It goes out Monday at like 9 or so. It'll kind of explain that a little bit. Trying to see if there's anything else there. I think that's pretty much it. We did a nice job today, I think. Absolutely there's a logic to that I started joke. I will happily help you see that in a second. Let me just park the plane real fast. Coming in. What I have to do now is turn on the maximum landing lights right as I come up to these guys and watch them go, ah, and go dive. Yeah, I know I'm not quite lined up. I know. Here I come. Watch out. We're here. Nice. Okay, so I started a joke. Let me see if I can answer that question for you real fast. So, alrighty. So all arrivals are named after the important waypoint in them. And this particular one, you've got Tweed 1, 2, and 3 here. Actually, Alpha, Charlie, and Delta. It's a little different in the UK, I understand. But basically, this is the most important waypoint. Now, the actual naming for it is related to your initial starting waypoint. So in the US, what you'd have is you'd have like the Tweed 1 Gerva approach or something like that. And that would just tell you that's the starting place to do. Let's see here. What other questions? People asking real quickly. I'll flip back over to the thing real fast. Is there any logic departure? What plane is my favorite? DB Vision. I love the TBM. It's an absolutely wonderfully powerful aircraft, and it does some really, really nice stuff. I find myself flying the Bonanza the most often because it's a little smaller and easier to actually handle. Let's see, what peripherals? I answered that question a little earlier. I've got a Thrustmaster joysticky thing. I've got a VKB joystick. It's called a Gunfighter. It's fancy, but I like the thing that I can actually take out the springs and adjust that and stuff like that. And I also have some, I think they're a CH fighter pilot pedals. Let's see what the next question is. Exterior lights. Yes, they're definitely not very bright. Catch your voice. Next thing. Yep, we'll decide if we want to do this. We'll see how we do. Yes, I'm sure that's really safe. Marshaller won't leave. I'm about to pull the trigger on FS2020. That's a great question, Bob. Again, I can't really, I'm not a marketing guy. I don't get paid for this. But the big thing for me is you got to ask yourself, what do you do with it? And do you intend to be flying all those extra aircraft? Do you want a 787? If it's not something you're interested in, you can also buy the Game Pass too and just kind of play with it a little bit as well. Let's see what else people have said here. Let's see. I like the Baron now that they fixed the alt knob. Yes. I actually like the Diamond 62 over the Baron. I know that's like naughty, especially since I've been playing Flight Sim for a while. PC, it's not that, this is a home-built PC. It's not a particular kind of PC that I'm using. At some point, I'm really crossing my fingers that I'm going to have enough money to go ahead and buy a newer one, or at least upgrade the motherboard and everything like that. And stuff like that. How do I like Microsoft Flight Sims compared to other Sims? For me, I love DCS as well because it's VR. It hurts my feelings. I probably should shut the plane off at some point. I really like DCS. I really like X-Plane because they're both in VR. At some point, we'll be in VR as well. Other ones that I really, really enjoy, you've got like your Rise of Flights and stuff like that. But stuff like that. Let's see here. Flight MSF. I think the big thing with this is that there's a lot of like engine modeling stuff that they didn't quite get quite right. Like, I love this. Watch, I'll push the throttle as fast. Okay, so this one's a little different, but a lot of the other aircraft, you push the throttle really hard and it just takes a lifetime to actually go up. Let me scroll down here. How do you like this? Game Pass is great. Have I tried the CJ4? Yeah, that's an amazing aircraft. That thing goes. I've done a couple videos with it already. I like it. It was a little laggy, but after the last patch, it's definitely more tolerable. Could you do one video about VOR and ILS? I actually did. That was what I finished today. So you'll see the one on VORs last week. A VOR approach is actually going to be Wednesday at about 9 my time. If you can explain theory, that's going to be, yeah, I've done a little bit of that last week, Peter. Oh, cool. Message retracted. I've never seen that before. Follow-up question. Let's say you're going north. Is there a way to know which departure you should choose? So I have a bad news. I started to joke that there's actually a website that does a lot of that automatically and will tell you the suggested approach because your approach is going to be depending on direction. So if you want to, and if you're taking notes, there's a website called simbrief.com. I'm not going to go to it because I'm currently logged into it right now. That's simbrief.com. It'll actually work out the flight plans for you and tell you what arrivals you should be using. It's actually really, really cool. Hold on a second. Follow-up question. Now that Game Pass is double price, I don't have Game Pass, so I can't actually speak to that. Have really helped clarify. I'm so great to hear that it's helped you out, Joel. I don't get to fly as much in the real world. This is the best I can do right now, and I'm just super excited other people get a chance to kind of experience it as well. Someday I'll get to get up in the air again, in which case I'll try to do a video and you can see, something like that. CPU, GPU, Conf. I'm an i7 6700K, and my GPU is a 1080. It's just a regular one. Let's see here. Anybody else? Well, that depends on how many games you are and how many you're going to play. Clarify. Okay. Any last minute questions? Oh, wait, what's this? Can you do a video on the propeller and mixture optimization? So, Steve, the good news is on the Bonanza, there's 2 propeller settings. There's 2700 for climb and there's 2500 for everything else. So you don't have to worry about that. The mixture, there's no EGT gauge. So it's going to be really difficult to do that manually. Let's see, something like that. Like I was saying, I did turn on the super chat, but something like that. Oh, DB Division, I saw those honeycomb throttles and I was like, gotta get it. I got there by 4:30 and I think they had sold out by like 4:15, so I missed out. Although I'm looking at my desk going, there's no way I could fit one of those. Great question, Peter. I got to see kind of how things kind of play out. My life's gotten a little bit more exciting this month, as you could probably imagine with, school starting. I think you can figure out the rest kind of a thing. Any last questions before I kind of bounce here? I do know Navigraph. I'm just used to SimBrief. I guess it's kind of one of those things. Like I like Flight Plan. That's FLTPLAN. That's Garmin's thing. It's like ForeFlight, but it's free. And you can use SimConnect to actually plug into it, but you got to be careful because you can accidentally file a real flight plan, and you're going to make a lot of people really grumpy if you do that. Okay, any last questions? All right, looks good. In which case, everybody have a wonderful afternoon or evening. I know some folks are over on the other side of the pond, and they're probably getting a little late right now. Hopefully you folks enjoy the videos. I've given you some things next week as far as certain types of approaches. I actually went to fly one of the tricky ones called an LDA, and I found out the hard way that the thing wasn't aligned in Flight Sim. That was a little annoying. So you're going to have to wait another week for that or something like that. I was wondering when my wheels would get here. Just sitting here burning, thousands and thousands of dollars of gas, but that's okay. So as usual, I'll kind of keep an eye on my community feed if you need anything. But other than that, okay, one last question, IB Type R. Your fuel mixture should be changed every 1,000 feet. And every time you adjust power, you should adjust it. So for me, I just use the auto one. In the real plane, you can do it by ear. And also, if you have a fixed pitch prop, you can just pull it back until your RPM peaks and then push it in a little tiny bit, and that's usually more than enough. It's really quite a pain in this version. And the nice thing is in this aircraft, we don't have to worry about this too much. Now, the cool thing is you can actually put this into low idle. Is it going to let me do it today? I see how it is. There it goes. And my RPM will come down a little bit. Okay, have a great time, everybody. Wait, one last, cool. All right, have a great day, everybody. I hope you guys had some fun. Again, this will go up in DVR for folks who missed it. Keep an eye on my community page on YouTube for any kind of late adjustments or anything along those lines. Otherwise, enjoy.